Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. I'm Mayor Mike, and we're talking Point. The holiday's coming up, 4th of July, and there's no better festival in all of central Wisconsin than our annual Riverfront Rendezvous. So joining me today is Director Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, Dan Kremer. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Riverfront Rendezvous. Now, you came into this only a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
But it's been going on for a very long time.
It is.
Give me an idea of what maybe your first impressions of Riverfront Rendezvous were, because you actually started like right there at Riverfront Rendezvous.
Yeah, I think it was my 5th day of work when we had the Riverfront Rendezvous in 2019 is my first year that I ran it. So my first impression was it's a large undertaking. There's a lot that goes on and there's a lot of people involved, but we are entering our 41st year this year. So I think the good news is that we have such a strong tradition. There's a lot of different community groups and certainly commercial partners that make it a well-oiled machine when it comes together for the 4th of July weekend.
So give me an idea of what's going to be happening this weekend. When is it? When are the fireworks? Go through the lineup. What's going on this week?
So we're July 3rd through July 5th of 2025 here this year, and really we are centered around being a music festival. So first and foremost, what we're doing for the 41st year is we've actually upped the number of bands. We have 21 bands that are going to be performing over those 3 days. We perform on 3 stages, and last year for the 40th anniversary, we introduced kind of a new stage on the north. It was such a hit, we're bringing that back again this year. But again, that's the first thing we wanted to do is really center around the music with those extra bands. Then we went right to the family zone. So also new for this year, the big things that we're doing, we're going to have free face painting for all the children, both on the 4th and the 5th.
Just children, though?
Just basically up to age 14. Yep. So,
all right.
yeah.
Well.
So you can't have your face painted, but maybe we can pull some strings for you, Mayor. But that'll be happening both on Friday and Saturday. And then we also are bringing in a balloon twister for some animals for the balloons.
Okay.
That will also be free for the children along the Crosby Avenue on Friday and Saturday.
The kids get all the cool stuff,
They do. And then to kind of put icing on the cake, we have a free pedal tractor pull for ages 4 to 12 this year too. So if you come down right after the parade on the 4th, it just right along Crosby Avenue, anyone in that age bracket can enter and do free tractor pulls on pedal tractors.
Are we supplying the tractors, or they got to bring their own?
We are. It's all supplied. Everything's there. There'll be trophies for the age brackets. So really, it's just come on down, sign your name, and then they'll bracket everything up. But that's a brand new event that we're bringing in too. So on top of that, as you know, we have amazing food and beverage across the whole festival. We do have a couple new food vendors this year that you want to come down and check out that have been new to the festival. And really, we're there all 3 days. So we'll kick off on Thursday night this year. 5 o'clock is when the festival begins on the 3rd. It'll go until the bands end around 10:30. And then we are noon until basically close, which is around that 10:30 window on both Friday and Saturday.
And Saturday is the fireworks, right?
Correct. We always culminate, we are a community celebration, but the 4th of July weekend, we culminate with the best fireworks show in Wisconsin. That'll be right around dusk, typically around that 9:45 hour on that Saturday.
That's great. And I want to comment too, because I've gone to, probably all of the Riverfront Rendezvous that we've had, and I've seen it kind of evolve over the years. And I got to say, the last couple of years, we've really been able to kind of step up the game, right? Bigger, better fireworks, more food vendors, different activities, trying things out. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We move on to something else and give it a try. Where do some of these ideas come from?
Sure. Most of the ideas actually come from our visitors to the actual festival. So first and foremost with the band ideas, whenever we get a band recommendation, we actually listen to all of them. Sometimes they're just you're too unaffordable for us because they're such a radio name. But otherwise, if we can afford them in the budget, we reach out. Sometimes it comes down to scheduling. So if, we're booking bands sometimes 2 years in advance because they have their tours built out. So that's the first thing is people come down and say, why don't we have this? We'll certainly plug into that. And then we see the different comments that come in via Facebook messages and things. And then one of the largest areas we get leads is from the actual food vendors and some of the traveling, the inflatable company, the circus, or not the circus, the actual carnival that we have. They say, hey, we were over in this community, they tried this. So we just jot notes down, and then we kind of tabletop plan all year. So when the event ends, we'll get together in the next couple of weeks after, and we talk through what worked, what didn't, and then we kind of compile those ideas and try to see what we could try for the following year.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So you kind of plan it out, take input from the public, modify that plan as much as you need to, maybe even a little more input from the stakeholders, modify the plan. You're willing to try new things or at least explore new things within that venue and see what works stays, what doesn't work, hey, maybe replace it with something the following years.
Absolutely. And, you know, our festival is really built on tradition and loyalty. So, you know, our food vendors, for example, we have a number of them that have been with us every year. And once you have a food vendor that's doing a good job at a space, say a hamburger vendor, or you have some that's selling tacos really well, you know, we actually we do the same commitment back. So if they've done a good job and they've been committed to our weekend, we never go and solicit another vendor in that space until that vendor chooses to step away. And because of that kind of long-standing relationship building within our vendors, we have, again, quite a few that do this every year. And then the festival also props up a number of community groups. So, you know, our soda stand is staffed by our Crystal Ice Figure Skating Club. And any proceeds they have actually go back to our department by renting ice at the Willett Arena. We have cleanup crews in the morning that are community groups that we pay a small donation to, and in exchange they volunteer to clean the grounds for us. Wow. So, and the list just goes on and on. You know, a number of not-for-profits are in the different food booths between the youth baseball groups. So there's a lot of community aspect for people coming out to have a good time, but there's also a ton of economic benefit for those different community groups that do things as part of the festival too.
Well, that's something that most people probably don't know about. They come here, they have a great time, and then the weekend's over. But it's really that community-based, symbiotic type relationship where we're really helping out all sorts of groups that are local, and they're helping us out by making it a very successful event.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we also have a huge amount of, you know, sponsors and partners too. So, you know, from Century, Delta Dental, Skyward, Covantage Credit Union, the university, Point Brewery, General Beverage, the list goes on. All of those partners, without their dollars that they support on this event, we couldn't put it on. And that's how we put the, you know, Festival Foods as our firework vendor, our firework sponsor, I should say. Those traditions and those kind of relationship building that's happened over the 41 years, it just isn't possible to do this event without it. And then certainly the city of Stevens Point, Mayor, you've been hugely supportive. Our council has always been supportive, Park Commission. So when you go down and you think, man, this thing just goes on, it doesn't take a lot of work, we certainly plan all year, but there's a lot of joy by the whole staff put into it because it does go off so well, typically because of everybody's buy-in and support of the festival.
Yeah, that's really good. It should be noted too that a bunch of years ago, I was getting complaints that the Stevens Point fireworks show was not as good as some of our surrounding neighbors. So I started looking into it, and honestly, everybody spent more on fireworks than we did. Even little old Rosholt spent more money on fireworks, and the thing was, most of their fireworks were funded through donations. So I remember getting together with you and said, how can we make this work? The first year we put out like a GoFundMe and got another $7,000, so we kicked it up. I think we were spending $10,000 a year on fireworks. We are at $25,000 worth of fireworks every year, thanks to the donations and sponsors that have really stepped up. And even the vendor has told us, well, you're not going to get any better. You might get longer, but you won't get better. Moving them from the shoreline to the river, shooting them off of barges allows us to use bigger shells, and they're kind of closer to Piffner Park, so they seem bigger and more impressive. And I swear the fireworks show gets better and better every year. The bands, we've got a little bit more money in the coffers. We're never going to get Bon Jovi or something like that. We just can't afford it. There's so much money that you can spend, and I mean, even bands like Horseshoes and Hand Grenades are, you know, $25,000 sometimes.
Yeah, they can range big time in cost. This year we are lucky, we do have a radio name, so Little Texas is actually going to start our festival as the headliner on the first night. Little Texas had, I think, 4 number 1s in the 90s.
Yeah.
We also have not had a country music performer in a number of years on the main stage, so that is going to be our probably largest name that's recognizable. Our headliner on Saturday, or Friday I should say, is a Queen tribute band. They're called the Crown Jewel. So if anyone's a Queen fan, they'll put on a very nice show, and they're actually being, the opening act for them is going to be a Stevens Point band, which is, I apologize, I quick grabbed the name here, so I had it on my tip of my tongue for a second, but it's going to be Armchair Boogie. So
Armchair Boogie,
yeah,
sure.
They've been in town,
I know those guys.
number of that were actually students at UWSP. They've really grown in their following, but they'll be there as well on Friday. And then Saturday we close with kind of a funk group called Brass Differential. So there's a series of other bands across the 3 days, but those 3 headliners will certainly bring good crowds in on all 3 nights.
Yeah, I'm actually excited for Little Texas, and I'm not much of a country fan.
Sure.
So, and that's one of the things that we hear about relatively frequently. Right? Why don't you get some good bands? That's the phrase they use, good bands. And I'm like, oh, well, what kind of bands were you expecting? Because we'll add them to the list, right? And, well, I don't know, something, from the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. And like, oh, so you want something from anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's important that people understand, you are not going to like every band.
100%.
But there will be a band you should like, right? We go everything from, do we still have the polka bands?
We do, yep.
Polka, country, jazz, folk,
Bluegrass,
every genre that there is. I don't think we have any New Orleans jazz, but we'll work on that.
Yeah, for sure.
But there should be a band over the course of the weekend that does suit you. And a lot of them are kind of those middle of the road bands where they're fun to listen to, but it may not be the band you want. But if you do have suggestions, and keep it reasonable. Again, we're not getting Bon Jovi or Judas Priest or Weird Al Yankovic.
Sure.
But send over your suggestions, and we'll see if that's available. Generally, I think we're the middle of the road trip. So maybe they're playing a gig in Milwaukee or Chicago, and then the next weekend they're up in Minneapolis. Well, I can go through Point and make an extra 10, 15, 20 grand. Let's do it.
Yep, that does happen a lot. So we certainly, when there's acts going to Summerfest or other things of that nature, sometimes our weekend will line up where they can stop, play here, and then go and play midweek in those larger festivals. So that's a big piece that helps us. And then secondly is honestly us just learning of a band that maybe we didn't know of, and then just coordinating what year it falls in. But a big piece of our festival is a number of our bands would be ticket required bands, a band that would sell tickets somewhere else. We do it for free because of our sponsorships that we have. And then again, we focus really heavily on actual, not necessarily cover bands. We'll usually have one or two or somebody that plays familiar radio music, but a lot of these bands are writing their own songs and they're performing, and it's something that you're not going to hear, very regularly. You're going to have to travel to see them. So we bring them into Stevens Point. So our residents are very lucky that, the way this festival's come together, it's kind of built on raw musical talent. And we have some really great, musical professionals that come in that do this for a living that they would usually have to travel to go see or buy a ticket to, and we bring it here for free. So that's kind of our goal.
It just occurred to me that the Portage County Historical Society is just about to open up an exhibit featuring a lot of local musicians, some of which made it quite famously.
Sure.
And they're doing a whole exhibit out at Heritage Park. Maybe we could see if we could get some of those bands together for a reunion show.
There you go, yeah.
For Riverfront Rendezvous. We got some extra stage space,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
We can fit them in early, so if anybody's listening out there, you want to get a 20-minute, half-hour gig, let me know. Probably not going to happen.
Sure.
But, some of the other things that we wanted to talk about are the other things to do. Well, let's hit the food trucks first because, years ago there was the food tents, and that was kind of it.
Yep.
You got your typical burger, pizza, brat. There was a strawberry shortcake tent there for a while.
Sure.
I think I ate every day at that strawberry shortcake tent, but they gave up. And the food trucks, that all happened since you came on board. And
It did.
tell me about how that works. If I'm a food vendor and I want to get in, or maybe just something the public doesn't know about how we select those vendors and regulate them.
So obviously the food side of things has kind of evolved, and food trucks really hit the ground in Stevens Point area around that 2020 mark, and as we kind of headed through the pandemic and things. So we just kept hearing from people saying, hey, we'd like to try this food truck, and it was always a no. Well, as we looked at kind of our menu, we started to diversify the menus, what I would say. So when a food truck would contact us that had something that we weren't selling, that's how we started to accept them. We've gotten to a point now where we've kind of maxed our space out. So we only have food truck availability when a food vendor steps away. And typically we might have one or so that can't make the weekend work. So we'll have 7 food trucks this year that are going to be down there, and the menus range in different offerings. But what they really are is a supplemental food offering that wasn't really being offered in the food tents on the south side. I am happy to report that we will have another dessert vendor that'll be down there. And a couple of our food trucks too have been with us the last 5 years since we've allowed it. So anyone that ever is interested in selling in Riverfront, we always invite the people that have been with us before, but then we open up our open spaces. So we do have a wait list on the food trucks, but anyone that does have a food truck that would like to be in it someday should reach out to my office. I'll add them to the list. And it's the same thing on the tent side. Whenever somebody is selling something that maybe we're already selling, we put a list together. And if we ever lose that vendor, we immediately contact the wait list.
Yeah, and I know there is a cost to do that because there's staff time involved and everything. We can't just let them do it for free. We have to recoup our expenses as well. But they're completely reasonable, and I can guarantee that pretty much every food vendor is making a ton of money above what the small rental fee is or use fee.
We take all the fees, and that's what really pays for the bands. So it kind of all, the business model kind of funds itself. But correct, just based on the number of years our vendors are coming back, we'd never ask the full financials, but we believe that they're profiting a healthy enough margin that they know it's worth their 3 days worth of time.
So the carnival's going to be back this year.
It will be.
Any new stuff that we're going to have this year?
Yeah, really. So the carnival is the second year that we brought it back returning. They're going to add a couple more attractions that they hadn't brought last year.
Okay.
So the carnival is a huge hit. The lines that we had there last year, and Nathan Kodrevich and their company does a wonderful job putting that together.
And they're local.
They are local, yep. So look for them to be down there. They'll actually start a little even earlier than our food will kick off on Thursday. So they also are really nice centerpiece as you drive by the festival to see, kind of bright lights and things that we have going on. So right next to them is where we're going to have that face painting and the balloon twisters, which is also new. And then we will have a couple new food offerings that we'll be releasing on our social media pages as we come up. We'll be highlighting it. But really, there's a couple new food vendors, those new free kids activities. We've increased the number of bands, and then we're making the carnival a little larger. Next to the carnival will also be the inflatable games. So there's still a wide range, whether you have a toddler or you're going up into teenage years, there's a lot to do for that age group. And then still the parade on the 4th of July at 10 a.m. downtown. So that's really what's nice about this is if you're at the parade, you're able to walk right from the parade straight into Piffner Park, and all the events will be kicking off. Music will welcome you, and Stevens Point will be the place to be for those 3 days for sure.
Yep, and I know Jim Oliva is going to be doing his live broadcast again from the gazebo just downstream from the band shell for 90 FM, the Saturday morning freak show. He's been doing that for a lot of years. Yeah. We always have fun with that. Carp Classic is going on. How many years has the Carp Classic been going on?
I think the Carp Classic dates back about 30 years. It wasn't in the first initial, but I believe it's right around that 30-year mark. And that is. And actually now we partner with Fall Line Outfitters downtown. Okay. There's another kind of relationship building process. And Fall Line's team is wonderful to work with. They're very versed in that side of things. So they actually help us run that event. And that'll be on the 4th of July this year, which is that Friday.
Okay. Yeah. And you may not know this. Little known fact, the mayor actually has 1 or 2 Carp Classic trophies from the probably mid-'90s.
Oh, nice. That means you could be a ringer, you're saying. Somebody could recruit you in there.
I'm a previous champion, is what we'll call it.
Sure, there you
go. But it used to be $1, but you guys have skyrocketed the price. Just crazy costs. I don't know if it's tariffs or what it is, but what's the cost for the Carp Classic now?
Yeah, I think it's $3 is what the actual
$3.
is. Yep.
Wow. That's insane. Yep. It tripled over 30 years.
It has.
I can't believe that.
we still do a big event ceremony in terms of the winners get announced. We do hand out trophies.
Oh yeah, it's
really
a lot
great
of fun.
Opportunity. Yep.
And bring the kids for weigh-in. Because they'll see monster fish. Yep. I mean, those carp are pretty darn big.
They are, and we actually, as they're weighed in, we put them into the front of the end loader, so you can actually see all the fish, and then they get taken care of according to DNR standards after that. But it's a wonderful thing, and it's great fun for the whole family.
Yep, and they're not released back into the river, but they are used.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
They're not just thrown in a landfill.
We have a permit within the DNR
compost,
process, and we work through with them to make sure that
great fertilizer.
Absolutely.
And anybody that wants to take one home, we could probably make that happen, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Some of the other things that we've had over the years that have kind of gone by the wayside usually happen for a reason. And the one that I'm thinking of course, you mentioned earlier that we have groups that come in and volunteer to serve the alcohol or pick up the trash in the morning or the soft drinks, and they have a nonprofit or a club, and that's how they get some money. We used to have bingo. What happened with bingo?
Yeah, so there was a church that ran bingo for many, many years, and ultimately some of the leadership of the church, they aged out of it is the best way I can phrase it. They couldn't take the physical demands. So we did 2 calls 2 years in a row saying we'd work with any group that was interested in doing the bingo. And while we had some interest, we just weren't able to find a group that could actually pull it off where they could be on the grounds. So essentially that's an open invitation to the community. At any point, if someone would be willing to do bingo, now it does require...
And they have to have a bingo license.
Yes, you have to secure a license. And then obviously there's some state requirements you have to follow. Not overwhelming, but there's a few pieces to it. The first year would be the hardest. After that, it becomes very much rinse and repeat. But we're more than willing to bring it back. We have the space. We just have, we have a personnel issue. Like as we add things, we always try to add in a way that the staffing and kind of the management of it can be sustainable. And with the number of staff we have running all of the particulars we do already, we weren't able to run it ourselves. Yeah. So if a community group is ever interested, if they contact my office, we'd be happy to bring that back.
Yeah, and ballparking, when I remember it, you're probably only looking at maybe 10 people for a couple of hours. That's really just collecting boards, handing out boards, collecting money, calling numbers, reading numbers back. So that's really all it is. So if any group out there wants to take over the bingo, you need a bingo license. We don't have one. but there's lots of groups out there that have it. Contact the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department, and we'll get bingo back on the menu.
Absolutely, and they can use it as a fundraiser. So the way that bingo is run and can be run is they can actually profit from it when it's all said and done. So certainly happy to have that conversation with anyone interested.
So there's some events going on in the Piffner building as well. I know you have the trivia contest that happens every year. John Jury, Dave Schleiss put that on.
Yep.
How many years have we been doing that? Because that was before you started.
That was
right?
long before me, yeah. So I'd have to check the record book exactly when it is. But being a trivia town, that was a natural fit. And I know when they added it, it's been really successful since. One other thing that the Piffner building will host this year that I did not mention is going to be a karaoke contest too. So we have, it's called We Are the World Karaoke, but that'll be in the Piffner building too. And we've not had karaoke, I think, in my understanding, in many years, if not ever.
Yeah, there was like an American Idol knockoff show that we had for a while.
Yeah.
Which is kind of something, karaoke was a little bit involved.
Sure, yeah, so this is called We Are the World Karaoke. It's in Piffner on Saturday. So if you're interested in doing some karaoke singing, people should take a look at the schedule and make sure they make it down for that too.
I've often said just because I can't sing doesn't mean I won't.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone is able to, for sure.
All right. Well, maybe I'll get inspired by our Prince tribute band or Queen tribute band, and we'll get out there Saturday. So Saturday at the Piffner building. That's great. Any additional improvements? I know we got the first aid station at the what we call the old Central Company building. I think it's aging out already, though. I think people are forgetting that it used to be Central Electric.
Sure.
So they don't know what we mean when we say Central Company building. So maybe put that on the docket. We'll have to figure out some catchy name for it. Big public restrooms on there that's open to everybody. Lost and Found is at that building. And then, of course, you run your operations out of that building. All of the logistics, emptying the garbage cans, the recycling cans, things like that. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And the shirts this year are what color?
To be honest with you, I looked at 4 color samples, and Ann is the one I ordered those for us, so I don't even want to tell you the wrong color. But so you'll see us.
But they're all the same color.
Matching,
they say Riverfront Rendezvous on the front. They say staff on the back.
They do.
But they're all usually bright, something that you can be visible. So if anybody has concerns or questions, you can contact one of those staffers. They all have radios. They can get in touch with whoever they need to help get your issue resolved. We do have not only law enforcement, but emergency medical services on site at the command center. Those are just, let's call it south of the band shell on Crosby Avenue, almost right on Crosby Avenue.
Yep.
We've been doing that for a while, where they monitor the cameras, they help find lost kids or lost parents, lost items. They always have a free giveaway there too. Little trinkets, you can get little sticker badges and things like that.
Yep.
There is a lot. The point was that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make this enjoyable, and cleaning up every morning before the next round of events and things kick off. And because of that, we kind of have to have some rules, right? Those rules are pretty simple.
We have no fireworks, so no one can bring fireworks in. We're the only permitted firework vendor.
And that includes any fireworks, right? Sparklers and snakes, even the stuff that's legal to shoot in front of your house.
Correct.
Just don't bring them. It's a big, crowded area, and it can get dangerous.
Correct. We also ask no carry-ins. So obviously the vendors are trying to make their money back, and so we ask you to support the vendors if you come down. So no carry-ins. And then lastly, we don't want any animals, so no dogs. There's just the large crowds. It's difficult to try to keep conflict from happening. So we ask people to keep animals out. Obviously, if it's a service animal, that's different. But if there's otherwise no dogs, no fireworks, and please support our vendors. And to kind of take it a step further, you're talking about EMS services and kind of that. There's a whole tabletop exercise that we kind of plan for all the things. And then also those first responders, police officers, EMS services, they do the Children's Safety Day. So on Saturday from 1 to 4, there's free, there's the emergency vehicle display that children can actually climb on up and meet with those.
Jump in the fire truck?
Absolutely.
They usually have some activities.
They do. There'll be an obstacle course that's run by the fire department down there as well. We'll have a market in the park that's happening on the 4th too. That'll run over the afternoon from 12 to 5. If you're a artesian vendor, you certainly can sign up for that and be part of our market too. So it's amazing. The list just kind of goes on and on about all the different collaborations and all the different things that go on through this festival. And if you haven't seen the schedule, it is on riverfrontrendezvous.com. You can actually look at the trifold that has all the activities. And if you are in one of those spaces, say a market vendor that you're interested, certainly reach out. There might be a chance to slide you in here yet and maybe get you down to the festival.
Okay. great. The flyers, you said they're available online, but we scatter these out through some of the community places too.
We do. So we'll drop them off at the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They'll be all around City Hall. They'll be at our office. Some of our sponsors will also pick them up. We'll put them down on their counters. And then all of the food vendors, when they enter the actual festival grounds, we'll have them at their counters. And then we have QR code signage that links back to that brochure too. So if you want to be digital as you walk into the grounds at numerous locations, it's it's just in a little kind of a yard sign. If you scan it with your phone, you'll be able to load that three pamphlet brochure that has all the activities for the weekend on it too.
Yeah, lots going on. We'll probably even get a couple out during the Levitt music series for the next couple weeks, maybe even some notes at night, so people have a chance to plan their weekend, because it's pretty darn full. There's a lot of stuff going on.
It is, absolutely.
And it's important that, when you mention no carry-ins, right? This is free. It's a free event. Nowhere else are you going to see this. Even in Wausau, there's a door charge, a gate charge. We don't do that. And the only way we can do that is because we have very supportive sponsors and vendors.
Yep.
So we want you as an attendee to support the people that are there, because that money gets re-injected into the festival.
Absolutely. And that's really the way this comes together. And our community has been incredibly supportive of our vendors and of our beverage sales and everything else that we do. So while it's a rule, it's been a rule that I think our community has endorsed. And we're always happy to see everybody come on down and have a good time. You have free music, you have free admission, and while we can keep all those things free, is if they can keep kind of honoring our intent, which is the no carry-in rule.
Yeah, and that's great. So we only have a couple of minutes left. You mentioned this is what, year 41?
41st year, yeah.
41st year of Riverfront Rendezvous, but next year is 2026. That is 250 years since the birth of our country.
Yeah.
So any leads or any hints that you can give me on what we might be doing bigger, better, badder next year?
Yeah, I think we're looking at our entertainment budget for next year, and maybe we're talking with our partners and seeing if there's some opportunities to go bigger. So obviously every year we add something new. That's always our goal. Next year I think we're going to try to get some names that maybe get people pretty excited for that 250th celebration of our country.
Well, and we've got a river. So let's not rule out some sort of Fort Sumner reenaction.
We won't rule it out, but sure.
We had Francis Scott Key over, and well, that was a little later, but yeah, that would be kind of fun. But all I'm trying to get is look forward to some really big things next year when we celebrate our 250th birth of the country. So that's pretty darn fabulous. So Dan, anything else that is going on? I know the Cops Municipal Pool is open.
Yes.
And what are the hours there?
Yeah, so it does vary day to day, right?
Okay.
So we have lap swim that's kind of mid-morning. A lot of our bulk of the hours start around that 11 o'clock and kind of roll into the 8 p.m. But weekdays is a little bit different than weekends. You also can rent the pool for different private party activities. The best way is if you go to stevenspoint.com and you just click on the Donald Cops Municipal Pool tab, you can see a day-by-day schedule based on the activities. Okay. Or if you go down to the pool itself, we do post a full week's schedule right there at that location too.
And that's some other things, because we've got lots of lodges, lots of family reunions and birthday parties and graduation parties. We have several facilities that are available for rent, right? You can find those.
Yeah, we have 5 lodges that can be used from anything from baptisms and birthday parties to other larger events. We certainly have inside of our KB Willett Arena and our rec center here in Gerke Park, there are rooms that can be rented for less money that are a little bit smaller. And then certainly all of our parks are in full swing right now. So our park restrooms are open. Our open air pavilions are always free to the public.
First come,
first serve. And then, a lot of the special events and things that happen in our community of any sort of size and scale do take place in the park. So as you mentioned earlier, there's concert series on Wednesdays and Thursdays down at Piffner Pioneer Park. In Buchholz, there's a ton of different water tournaments for fishing and all the other things that go on that come out of Buchholz Park. We just finished kind of the baseball, softball season. However, all of our youth baseball, softball, adult softball, all of those activities are in full swing right now. So it's a really busy time to be in our parks. The downtown fountain is on, that's on the square. My department oversees those operations. And certainly then when you get into our playground facilities and our different athletic fields, all of that's in full swing when it's this time of year.
That's great. There is so much going on. And the winter parks too, but we'll save that for a different episode.
Absolutely.
But summer is here, and we hope you get out and enjoy it. Join us for Riverfront Rendezvous. If you need one of those brochures, they're available online. If you've got some ideas, send them over to Dan at the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department. Dan, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to a great summer thanks to our park system.
Thank you.
Until next time, I'm Mayor Mike, and we have been Talking Point.
Talking Point is produced by Mayor Mike Wiza and Stevens Point Community Media.